Welcome to BlackUSA.news morning show. I'm your host, William Honolulu Jr. Join us as we explore the news and opinions that impact our community. We break down how the major stories have a very personal, local, and racial impact. No topic is off limits, but even if the conversation gets rough, we're always going to keep it real.
Greetings and salutations, all my people out there in internet land. I am William Honolulu Jr., and I have the privilege and honor of serving as the host of the Black USA News Morning Show. I am so happy to be here today. We got an opportunity to talk to Robert Murphy, excuse me, because this is a professional interview. It's not. I don't even know why I try to pretend every once in a while. I was like, no, this is going to be different than the rest of the interviews. I'm going to be a respectable journalist. There's not a lot about me that is. Well, no, separate issue. Okay, but we're going to talk today about his book, about authorship, and about what he's been doing and how he's been able to make the life decisions that many of us struggle with. Do you fight? Do you run away? How do you determine how to invest your resources to take your vision, to take your business, to take your love to the next level? So we're going to talk to him about that. But before we get started, I got to give my peeps, my fam, my support system a big shout out. So big shout out to the super producer Kyle Crazy Horse Morgan and our assistant producer Brandy Raymar, who are always holding me down and making sure that I have the resources necessary to provide you the quality of show that you all deserve. Actually, big ups. Robert and Horse go way back, like babies and pacifiers. So it's gonna be good to bring another member of the family to the table. Also, big ups to my personal assistant, Grace Awaka. She has been doing a wonderful job. She hasn't been with the team long, but she is doing the damn thing. She's actually helping us with our excuse me, she's helping us with our grant writing session on June 27th. So make sure that you all remember that that is something that's coming up and that you all are there for it. You can check the description. There's some more information in there. Oh, you know what else? I need to say a big shout out to one of our great new sponsors, Brittany Phillips. This is Helping Each Other and Loving Our Peeps. That's the name of her program. Actually, there's a link in the description. If you know, in the description of the show, if you go there and apply, you could win this shirt. It's pretty, and I would wear it, but it's a large. I ain't been a large in quite a long time. So if you are a large or you got a a person who wears a large in your life, go ahead and register for that, and we're gonna ship that out to you. And a big ups. And she sent me a copy of her book that was autographed. Oh, okay, all right, okay. But yeah, we have a great group of supporters, a great group of sponsors, a great group of advertisers, and it's just wonderful to be blessed like this. You know what I mean? It's like things don't always go right. Actually, let me be. If I'm, I keep it 85, man. I keep it 100 because 15% of my life y'all don't need to know about. But I keep it 85. It's not easy. Like it is hard. Black manning throughout the United States, and I can't even imagine if I did not have the privilege of being, or not even privilege, the luck of being a guy. But it's hard, and it becomes easier when you have people in your world that you can talk to, that you can communicate with, that you can be your real self. Now, you don't have to show up to everybody in every meeting being your authentic self, because guess what? Most of them don't give a damn, and they don't want to see it. Real talk, most people don't care about your dreams. They care about how your dreams impact their lives. That's the real deal of it. And so when you find some people in your world that are there for you, that hold you down, hold on to them. Now, don't let them exploit you and don't become overbearing. It's a balancing test. There's something. Just communicate with them and appreciate them because it could have been the other way, and be grateful that it wasn't. So that's what we're gonna talk about. And I start waxing poetic. I might sing or something. No, I'm not gonna sing. I wouldn't do that. But whew, I'm excited about my friends and about my people, and to tell you how great a dude I got in my executive producer, Crazy Horse. Um, like I said, Robert and Crazy Horse go back to days of undergrad, picked up the phone, was like, look, I got one of my friends from a long time ago. He's been doing amazing things. Like he's like, this dude's a true warrior. He steps up in the community. Like he's a good dude. And I was like, well, how come I don't know? He said, because you stay in the house. I said, oh, okay, no, that's a really good point. I didn't go a lot of places, especially if you all weren't going to be drinking back then. That's another show. Wow. Okay. See, I need to make sure I pay attention to my show notes. Okay, because you know what, he did give me a set of notes to. Oh wow, they don't mention that. Oh, whoops. Ooh. Okay, so I'm gonna bring him on before I mess up and get. Y'all know I'm gonna get fined. I hate this part. But here's Robert Murphy. Hey, sir, how's it going?
How
Hey,
you doing, brother? How you
I'm
doing?
doing well. I apologize. I get excited when I got some good guests on telling me some good stuff. Especially as and now I ain't gonna front on you. I've been looking forward to having this sit down with you. Um, I absolutely respect Crazy Horse and appreciate his judgment. And when he said, "Dude, this is the dude you need to talk to," and he started running down some of the stuff about you, I was like, "Well, why don't I already know him?" And that's what. Did you hear me talk about?
I heard you talk, brother. I got you. I
Yeah,
got you.
that because it was a conversation. A lot of people they have not had the opportunity to hear Horst tell who you are. So introduce yourself to the people, please.
I am Robert Murphy. I'm an author. I'm a consultant. I'm a career educator. As you call him Crazy Horse, I call him Kyle. We go back probably 30, maybe 25, 30 years. Back to undergrad and college. Kyle's always a good dude. We used to argue about sports all the time. He was a Knicks fan. You talk about good decision making. He's a Knicks fan. He can't be that good a decision maker if you're a Knicks fan. But I can't really say that. I'm from Detroit and I'm a Pistons fan. So but just really a good brother. As far as me, like I said, I'm an educator. I was a single dad. I raised a daughter who graduated from HBCU and then to a.
Wait! Shout her out! Shout her out! Give her a big props.
Oh yeah, my baby Kai, my baby Kai. She graduated from Spelman in 2017. Yes, 2017, and then she graduated from Georgia Tech with a master's degree a couple years later on. Man, I'm just really there's not much. I'm about work. Like I don't have time. Like I can talk, and I do love to talk. I mean, my wife would probably say, "Oh yeah, he loved to talk," but I really believe that if we are going to move us forward, or if we're going to move things forward, people have got to participate. And that's where the biggest problem, at least in my eyes, lies, is that this whole system is about participation. And even if you want to remove the system and just talk about us, we have to actively participate in life. One of the things I wrote in my book was that I see people in life, and this is not a shot at brothers, but I see sometimes brothers being passengers in their life, and you can't be a passenger. You can't be a passenger. You can't. And so many are passengers and allowing other people to make decisions for them, their families, their children, whatever it is. And I'm a believer that I want control. If I fail, let it be because I failed, not because I allowed somebody to take me down a path that I may not have really wanted to go down, but I went because I didn't use my voice. And my whole belief is agency for Black men and us having voice and us having some control over what we can't control.
Okay, so now I understand. Okay, this is actually gonna be better than he told me it was gonna be. Okay, I'm with it. So because I'm going my show notes because there's something stuff he said I gotta cover before we get into the other stuff.
Okay.
So tell us about the book. So first, we selling stuff here. Tell them how they can buy it first.
Okay.
Talk about
so the book's title is Niggas Ain't Astronauts. That is the title. Now give some people like, I don't know about that. Some people burst out laughing when they hear the title. The title comes from something my mother said to me when I was 6 years old. I talk about it a little bit in the book. I told my mother at 6 I wanted to be an astronaut, and she looked at me just as plainly and said, "Bobby, niggas ain't astronauts," and walked away. The book can be purchased at Hartwell X, the letter X, the number 3.com. www.hartwell, HARTWELL, the letter X, and the number 3.com.
Okay. Cool. Let me see if I can get that up here. But go ahead and tell us some more about it.
So the book is really a memoir. It's my story. I think I am one of the things that one of the reasons I actually wrote the book was because the narrative around Black men is really a really kind of linear narrative. It is we're gangbangers, we're criminals. Mm-hmm. And there's so many of us, there's so much diversity of Black men, but we don't ever hear the story about the kid who wasn't a gangbanger, who chose not to be that. Or we don't hear the kid who had really, really hard situations, but continued to make it through or made it through. And that is what my book is about. It's about family. It's about Black families. It's about fathers. It's about missing fathers. It's about sometimes off the chain mothers. It's about what you talked about earlier too. You talked about, having these people who kind of hold you and hold you together and sometimes push you up.
Yes.
And I have had the great fortune in life to have Black men, no matter where I have been, who have said, I see potential, come in. And they grab me and they kind of drag me through, and not dragging as if I'm kicking and screaming, but they certainly just say, yo, you got potential and we're gonna take care of you. And that goes from the hoodlums in my neighborhood to the guys I met when I was in college.
And what you describe is exactly kind of what you talked about earlier, that agency for Black men. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons that and so again, I realize why we talk about agency all the time. Mm-hmm. We talk about what we call practical genius, where there are things that we actually had I think he's tomorrow, Dr. Caston, and he always talks about how when you talk to brothers and sisters who are coming back, it is this expectation of who they should have been. Mm-hmm. And we require them a level of discipline and a level of understanding that most of us don't have. Mm-hmm. Like, why are you late for work? You shouldn't be late. I'm sorry, wasn't you late when you 10 minutes ago? Like, you got here late today and now you yelling at me. But this also is not just for brothers and sisters reentering, to your point. It is part of the system of oppression. Like when you take people take their ability to understand systems and ability to navigate systems, well, yeah, that's problematic. Like you don't provide, how do you expect them to make decisions if they've never had an opportunity to consider the information?
Yeah, for me personally, and I think that interacting with systems of oppression is a big deal for me. In that, one of the things that my family kind of groomed me under, and one of the things that I've always tried to keep in my mind is, I don't contend with things that I don't control. The only thing I control is me. I said, I don't contend with things I do not control. So people that I do not control, whether it's police officers, whether it's whatever, I don't control them. The only thing I control is me. And in my mind, I'm always thinking about, what is my goal? What's the end goal? If it's a police interaction, my goal is to get home.
Right.
And so whatever, here's my license, is my registration, I might be seething, and I have been seething, quite frankly. I've been stopped probably 100 to 125 times in my life. And a lot of it has been straight up BS. Some stuff, I'm a speeder. I believe the speed limit is voluntary or optional. So I consistently am 15, 20 miles over it. And I accept that. I'm wrong. Right. I'm good with that. But some of the other things I've gotten tickets because the light on the back of my truck, one of the bulbs was out. And I remember asking the officer, I was like, so can you see my license plate? And he said, yeah. I said, so help me understand why I'm getting a ticket, because you can't see because a bulb is out when you can still see my license plate. And so I said, that's a whole nother thing. That's a part of that system that you're talking about that we always run up against.
But what you have described, what you had in your life, was this opportunity for Black men to come and grab you up because they saw the potential in you. What they did is that they socialized you. What they call in neighborhood parlance, they pulled your coat to the game. They let you know, and that's the thing that a lot of us, those of us in professional parlance, we forget that it's still all the game. Because you might look at the dude who is a returning citizen, may not have had education or whatever, who you deemed not part of the professional world. You hang out in his neighborhood or you hang out in her neighborhood, you will get eaten alive. Not same way that they're getting eaten alive at work. because it's just about the socialization rules. And we try to make these rules, especially the ones that were created by the white colonizing Europeans. And if you're not a white colonizing European, I'm not talking to you. And if you're offended, I am talking to you, and you should be offended because you're a white colonizing European.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those systems that say that if you don't behave like this and you don't speak well, if you don't use words like anathema and talking about the antithesis of things and really having that, that extra where you put in your voice like you're on the radio, just so everybody can feel fucking comfortable that I'm not going to yell, that I'm not going to wild out. But see, I stopped that after the second, I think it was the second psychotic break. I just started wilding out because it's like Eminem said it. I mean, I'm a follow a white boy. He said, I am whatever you say I am.
See, and so for me, and that is where I don't believe in that. I believe that you are who you define yourself to be, and that becomes the challenge for us.
Oh, I apologize.
So many of us look at this system and assume the identity that the system has designed or that the system says that we are. And one of the things that my family, my uncles, my dad, literally every man that has been in my life, and woman, because my mother was very clear too. I mean, I grew up in Detroit at the time of the crack epidemic, et cetera, so forth. My mother was very clear with me from the jump street. Bobby, if you ever go to jail, please know I'm not coming to get you. That was one of her rules. And I talk about, there was an incident in my book that I talk about when I was about 8 years old, where, like we were sitting on my porch. I'll tell a quick synopsis of the story. We were sitting on my porch, white boy ride by, calls this nigga, we run, we chase him, couldn't catch him because he's on his bike. So he calls the second time, we couldn't catch him. Third time, we tell my friend's brother to sit in the bushes. So he called this nigga one more time, and Eric jumped out of the bushes, and we roughed him up. We didn't stomp him or anything like that, but he claimed that we stabbed him. And
wow,
true story. My mom. So Detroit police come to my house. I'm 8 years old. 8, like the number 8, and Detroit police come to my door. And, they ask him I'm home. My mother says, yes, he is. And they say, well, we need him. And my mother calls me to the door and she says, here he is. And she just gives me up. There's no argument. There's no, what'd you do? She says, you take him. If he did something that brought you to this house, you take him. And I just remember being like, wait a minute, what's going on? What? And so they put me in the back of the squad car. And I don't remember whether they handcuffed me or not. They may have, I don't remember. They took me to my friend's house, the friend who was sitting on my porch with me and his brother, and they asked me what happened. And I explained to him, we were sitting on the porch, he called this nigga, and my friend was eating Spam with a knife. I told him the knife was in my doghouse. And the police officer walked from my friend's house back to my house and looked at my doghouse, and the knife was in there, and he didn't see any blood on it. And I just remember him bringing me back to the house and saying to my mother, son, it's not good to be fighting, and people can lie on you. So stay out of trouble. And then my mother, when I got in the house, was like, look, you don't bring no police to my house. I didn't think that you had done anything wrong, but you need to understand, you don't interact with these systems. Do not get caught up in these police systems because they are the worst thing for you, especially as a Black man and especially as a Black boy. So again, I had all these people, my uncles, my grandpa, my dad, all these people were just, and even, like I said before, even the hoodlums. There was a guy in my neighborhood who I talk about in the book. I was a fighter. I didn't start fights, but I certainly ended them. And had a fight with this guy, knocked him out cold in front of his brother and his girlfriend, and beat him up a couple times because he kept coming back. And the final time he came back, he came to shoot up my house. And one of the neighborhood guys who was selling dope, caught him and asked him, why are you on this street at this time? And he was like, yeah, I'm gonna shoot up that so-and-so's house. And he was like, oh, really? Let me see the gun. He took the gun, he smacked him with it, and was like, no, he whooped your ass with his hands. You whoop him with your hands and you leave him alone. And probably a few weeks later, this dude got shot by somebody else and was killed. So yeah, so I've had this thing with people who just looked out for me, male or female. Again, I talk about the men in the book because I think, again, we don't talk about the diversity of Black men and what that love looks like. It looks different than motherly love. It looks much different.
Right.
And one of my concerns is the way that we discuss masculinity now, there was a question on one of these social media, men need to say they love each other more.
Right.
And that isn't how we do. Like, we right, you good, that's what we do. That's our demonstration of love. And I am concerned that people are trying to change how we do our business amongst each other. So that's a whole nother discussion that we can have at another time. But yeah.
My show, we got time to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
All right.
So I just want to make something clear, because I appreciate make the accuracy of language.
Yes.
And I am absolutely comfortable with the whole I am whatever you say I am, because you call me that doesn't change what I'm going to do. Like, the way I used to explain it to my sons, they came home, the youngest, when he had gotten in trouble at school because somebody said something to him, which he called him stupid. And we take intellectual stuff real seriously. So he is like second grade. I am not stupid. He's like wild out.
Yeah.
So, when he gets home, got a note, it's like, what happened? He's like, well, he called me stupid and I'm not stupid. I can prove it. Ooh. I said, who's the most powerful person you know? You are. How am I the most powerful person? They're like, because you get to tell us what to do. You can make it.
Yeah.
I said, if I am the most powerful person in the world to you, if I say that you are a girl and you pull down your pants, will you have a vagina? He said, what? Because, they're young and I keep forgetting sometimes my metaphors might be.
Yeah.
I said, would you be a girl if I said you are now a girl? Would you be a girl? And they were like, no, exactly. I am the most powerful person you know, and I cannot change something that is a fact.
Yeah.
Are you stupid? Well, no. Then does it matter? If he calls you stupid, be stupid. Let him have that. Because his commentary says more about him than it is about you. Because just as I can't change you into a girl with my words, he can't make you stupid with his. So who gives a damn what he says?
Yeah, very true.
I'm stupid. Okay, sure. All right. Because when it's going to be messed up when you get a lower grade than the stupid guy. So call me that.
Exactly.
But it is. But to your point, it is the way that we have been trained, and I'm gonna give you some pushback on the way that we do things. There are one of the things in because of the way I know Horst and the way he describes you, and I know the type of brothers that he has in his life.
Yeah,
there is a way of communicating, a way of masculinity that you can engage, especially as Black men that is not toxic.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
That is learned by Black men who are not toxic themselves. Unfortunately, and I'll use myself as an example, there are parts of toxicity that you learn from some of your environments. Like there are people in my life growing up that, it was the hyper aggressiveness.
Absolutely.
That was part of it. And love, one of the things that and actually, you know what? It's great. I love opportunities to talk about my dad. He passed away a few years ago. So
I'm sorry to hear that, bro.
But I love the model that he left for me. And I'm grateful that as a man, I got to understand who he was. Because one of the things growing up is that emotional kind of connection I never felt from him. Because he was a dude from a peanut town in North Carolina called Cresswell. Literally, as a grown up, when I drove down there, I literally drove by the town. Like, you know how they talk about, this town's so small. That's not a joke.
Yeah.
I drove by the town. And so in his town, part of the survival piece is once people knew you were soft, then you became prey. Everybody wanted to test you. So part of your survival was that hard.
Yeah.
And what I have learned, and I'll speak for myself, is that there is a level of communication that I have learned from some Black men that is the more intimate kind of conversations without having to be romantic. Because a lot of I got taught about intimacy. Intimacy is what you do when you're trying to get draws.
Yes.
If you're not trying to get draws, you save that. Don't waste no good intimacy. Don't waste no good. What is a good line? Don't use no good line.
I will say this. My personal belief is that African Americans in America have a culture of trauma.
Oh,
and And the culture of trauma is what breeds those types of things. And I even talk about it in the book. Like, there's a lot of things that we say, don't get caught slipping, don't go to sleep. Why you give all that? Why you expose yourself? It comes from a very defensive posture. And it comes from a posture that is very guarded and in many ways very jaded. And obviously America has helped and for the most part, probably 90% of it is responsible for that aspect of our culture. My premise is to some extent that our entire culture in America, we are the only group in America who does not have its original culture. Every group that's migrated here comes with their own culture. Their values, their beliefs, their behaviors, their moments, regardless of what a group it is, we're the only group that has had that pulled from us and have had to kind of tapestry this culture together of the things that we've learned or the things that we've experienced. And in many ways, I think that culture of trauma has bled into our experience and in some cases our socialization.
I gotta give you pushback on the whole cultural trauma.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with saying that it's a culture of trauma is that, and not necessarily you push back, but I want to make sure that everybody else is clear.
Mm-hmm.
To suggest that this is a culture of trauma doesn't mean that it's something that can be resolved, specifically because the fucking trauma is still happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and when people's like, you should get over it, it's like, that's like telling somebody in the middle of a rape, just relax, it's gonna, what? No, you were raping me. Like I, last weekend, I could have been in Buffalo buying some, what would I be if I was in Buffalo? Some green peppers. I would have been in there buying some green peppers. And I could be in Towson. I could be in North. This is now not even now. This is still part of it. It is a reminder. Whenever I drink a little bit or forget where I live, and be like, you know what? I got a few degrees. I got some money something like this comes to remind me. And so even it makes these support networks and how we communicate and even talk about the places that hurt. How we talk about them become incredibly important because the rest of this shit is after us all the time. It's not paranoia if they're really trying to get you.
Yeah. Yes. I don't necessarily know that that's necessarily pushed back. I think that we actually are saying kind of very similar things. We just might be saying it in a different language.
Right.
I'm a total believer, and we have some very serious experiences in America that are violent, that are ugly, that are nasty, that are everything. And to me, the language that I use is that it is a culture of trauma, and it is just habitual. It's continuous every time we take a step forward. Now, I will acknowledge our experience is different than our generations before us. Yeah. Now, I'm not suggesting that racism doesn't exist in any way, shape, or form, but I often go back to a story that I was told about, like my great grandfather, who came out of slavery, owned two general stores and a textile mill, and was told by the night riders that they were going to take his stuff. And he was like, basically to hell with that. So he shot two of them. And I don't know whether he killed them or the family law rule is that he killed them. But he rode his bike from South Carolina to Iowa, and from Iowa to Georgia, and from Georgia to Arkansas, all trying to avoid the consequences, the wrongful consequences of what took place. So.
And that type of story is part of it is wonderful that you know it. But that type of story engagement, it might be why your mother's like, oh, anytime police come, fuck you.
Oh yeah.
Nope. But they talk about you should be over this. No, because the police showed up. Nobody talked to the kid about saying nigger or whatever. And hell, after that was probably like, oh, okay, he was just playing around. Nothing.
Well, no, and I will say this: we didn't know at the time, but the white boy actually was a police officer's son. So he called his father at the station and said he got jumped. To Detroit Police's credit, they came to me. They certainly took me away. They had a conversation with me, but once they found out that it wasn't what he claimed, they just told me, "Look, son, stay away from him. Watch out because he said that you did these things. It's clear that you didn't. You got to watch out for some of these folks. And this was two white officers. And again, my mother, and I agree with you, my mother, but it was a family rule for us too. Like my grandfather, my uncle talked about years ago, my uncle talked about doing something, getting in jail. And my grandfather left him there and said, you got yourself here, you get yourself out. So there was a very, at least in our family, there was a very firm rule about getting involved in systems and prison and all those things. So that was just a family rule for us. But anyway.
Absolutely. I remember for me, it's so funny. When I was in high school, it was the drugs were such a problem in our community. That was the rule. You will never sell drugs, never sell drugs. And then I had friends who sold drugs. They were making like, yo, you should come and put on. I was like, oh no, because literally I am comfortable. My mother will kill me. Like not even on some hyperbole. No, I will be dead. But again, and so one of the things I remember, and it's kind of funny how the mind works. I didn't sell drugs, but I helped all my drug dealer friends figure out how to sell drugs better. So it was like one of them really, I helped him redesign his distribution nodes, and it was like, well, you're getting it because you did. And so I've been on my business stuff for a long time, but it was that whole rules. And so this is one of the other benefits of having like older Black men and men in your life, because there are a lot of rules about how to get down that when the nuance matters. Like when I told my mother about that as an adult, she was horrified. But I was like, I know, I never, and when she was upset, it's so funny. It never even occurred to me at first. I didn't sell drugs. She's like, yeah, you said that. I was like, no, so why are you mad? Oh, wait, it was it wasn't me. Okay. But again, another voice, not just that rule. This is the rule, keep it moving, will help you understand the nuances. And a lot of times your parents can't help you understand the nuances because they ain't lived it.
Yeah. The title of the book, I think, people always say, it was horrible that your mom said that. But, going back to that time in 1970, there weren't any Black astronauts. And, she was just like, they ain't gonna let you do that. White folks ain't gonna let you do that. That's not gonna happen. Not to mention I'm 6'3". And
Obama, Black mothers were saying that about being president too.
Amen.
But to your point, I think it becomes incumbent of us on us, especially as those who understand that maybe niggas can be astronauts. That we need to be more active, that we need to take opportunities to get on platforms and make sure that our voices are heard, because some of these niggas they really don't believe they could be astronauts.
Yes, exactly.
They really just don't. Like, and I tell about this young lady all the time. I remember I was working in a high school in Baltimore City. Standard little Baltimore girl. She said, and we're talking about what your dreams are, what kind of your bucket list. And she said, one day, like when I'm an adult and I, got a degree and got a real job, I'm gonna go to New York and just stand in Times Square, like they do in the movies. Like I'm gonna just go there and see. And I'm like, what are you gonna do when you get there? Because I'm like, you going to Broadway? You going? She's like, no, I'm gonna just stand there and like look around. You know how like the cameras spin? I was like, yo, you mean like I went there like 2 months ago to get some Junior's cheesecake, dog? Like, but for her, because of her world. Nobody, and actually we started talking. That's one of the things we did at the school. We started taking them places. College tours. And because it was like this girl's life's goal was to take a fucking megabus.
When I used to teach in Baltimore, like we had very similar situations where you would talk to young men and they literally had not gone outside of their neighborhood. I asked them, you been on West Side? Nah, I ain't been on West Side. Why would you go West Side?
No. Don't fuck I go over West Side for? What over there for? Shit, I ain't gonna go over there on fucking West Side, yo.
Yeah, I mean the West Side was like a whole nother planet, at least in their perceptions. And to your point, and I think that's one of the things that again about the book and about just our perspectives as men and as people, is broadening that perspective. So many times as we grow as children, particularly with our experiences with America, our perspective is, as small as what I'm looking through versus the wide view of like, wow, like, okay, so this world exists. Now, I learned that a little different from my book because I got banned from some schools in Michigan, or let me say this. It was either prophetic or I legitimately got banned from schools, which is how I ended up in Maryland. But it was one of the best things, and probably one of, if not the best thing, one of the best things that has ever happened to me, is leaving Michigan and, and building, my life down here with, my daughter and my wife and all those. It has been great for me to be here.
All right, so I'm gonna change gears because I realize that I'm interested in the book, and I'm trying to ask you more questions. I was like, no, y'all got to
we've been going all over the place.
Yeah, I apologize. Yeah,
it's all good, doctor.
But what I want to switch gears a little bit, because we have a lot of our viewers are entrepreneurs, and many of them are authors, either as their entrepreneurial journey or as one of the collateral pieces that they do, either as marketing, or they just got a story that they really want to tell. And I have worked with authors, those who have gone through traditional publishing. I've worked with those who have done independent publishing in different ways, and I've had some who done like straight down and gritty, dirty self-publishing. And in each of those experiences is vastly different. With its own, and again, none is actually better than the other, has been my experience. They all come with their benefits and comes with their challenges, and it has a lot to do with who you are. Yes. And so I just want to set that context, is that you want people to know, it's like, oh, we're not saying this is the only way you can get there, but I really want people to understand your journey, because sometimes, like you said, it's just knowing that somebody else out there went through it like me, and if he can make it through, it gives me some more courage to go through.
Yeah. So specifically about the book, I had always planned to write the book. The book was going to always be, as I grew up and I became a man, I was like, okay, I got to do this, because again, I want to tell the story of an average Black boy growing up in a city that was changing. Like I said, wasn't a gangbanger, wasn't any of those things, just a kid. Right. And some of the struggles that I had to endure, some of the things from a financial perspective, a physical perspective, emotional and spiritual perspective that you have to go through. The time, there was a time when I was probably about 14, 15, and I really felt like I was about to be broken by Detroit. Like I had gotten shot at, we got robbed. Like it was a bunch of stuff, that my mother and I were homeless. Like it was a bunch of stuff going on. And I felt like I was going to break. So anyway, all of that, I knew I needed to tell this story. Now the challenge was I am still respectful of my mother. And a lot of this story does not necessarily reflect well on her in some ways. And so for me, part of the reason that the book was released later on, she passed away in 2017. The reason why I did it then, or I started writing it then, was because I wanted to protect her. Right. Because the other part is she had told some stories that weren't necessarily accurate either. And I never wanted to embarrass my mother, regardless of what took place between us. I love my mother, and my mother deserved the respect of not being a target. So that was part of the reason I released the book this late. Now, the other piece to this is that because my story is so complicated, it involves a father who was married, who cheated on his wife with my mother. I did not realize some of the other impacts, some of the other collateral things that I didn't take into consideration, because the story is 50 years old. But I sent a copy of the book to my stepmother, who is a wonderful woman, has been fantastic to me. Even though I'm a reminder that her husband was a philanderer. I sent her a copy, and she said she read the book in like 4 days. Wow. And she said, honey, I have to admit, she said, I love the book. It was fantastic. She said, but the challenge for me was, she said, is that it brought up old memories. And it brought up some of the stuff that happened between me and your father, and so I didn't think of that. Right. And then there was another incident with one of my favorite aunts. She has been just a lovely, like if there's an angel on this planet, she got to be that one. And she read, we lived with them for probably about 2 months. And then asked my mother to leave. And obviously if my mother had to leave, I had to leave. Right. And she assumed that I was going to stay with my uncle. And she found out that we lived in the car for probably about 4, 5, 6 months, whatever it was. And she just cried and cried and cried. I was like, I would have never put you out. You're my nephew. I love you. I would never do that to you. So I still have to say, like, when you tell these stories, you have to always consider some of the collateral stuff. Even with my sisters, I talk about my sister being raped and its impact on me and how I saw her. I let my sister read the book because obviously we share a mother. And there's stories about us in there, our times, good times together, and the one or two bad times that we had. And I wanted my sister to be aware of, like, this is what I'm doing, and are you okay with it? I wanted to have her blessing. So I say all that to say, like, anytime you're looking at something like a memoir or something like that that's telling your story, it's imperative that you start thinking about collateral damage and people who might be impacted by your story, because again, I didn't even think about my aunt or my stepmom, and both of them were impacted by it. My sister was impacted by it too, but in a different way.
Right. That is, wow. That's a great one to think about how, there's a couple of stories that, I don't tell the audience. Again, there's 15% that don't nobody need to know. 5% of that I'm trying to forget myself.
Yeah.
And a lot of that 15% is because some of those stories aren't even mine to tell.
Yeah.
I happen to be an actor in them.
Yes.
And so I think it's really important that as you and that's a really great point. I love that that's the one you started with when you're talking about really kind of bringing the work to fruition or giving birth to it. That think about what this, because it's a life that you're creating, and this life that you are creating is going to go places, is going to impact people, and to be sure what are you creating.
And as a writer, it was cathartic for me to put all of this stuff on paper. I felt like, wow, I had all this off of me, off of my spirit, off of my personality, off of those things. But the other part to that is that while I let some stuff off, other people took some stuff on. And so to that point, I would certainly say, just be mindful when you start thinking about, if you're going to tell your own story. If you got siblings, obviously let them read it, maybe parents. Some people, do the non-disclosure agreements or, no harm agreements or whatever. Those are things you can look into as well. I would certainly suggest those. All of my people were fine with me. Okay. But again, everybody may not be, and especially if your book blows up, people may start looking to you for, you might need to get a release or something like that about stories or whatever it is.
So what I would suggest is, and this is my official business consulting hat, because I got hats on, because sometimes I'm just a show host. This is comes from the business consultant hat, is that if you're going to make a reference to anyone, make sure you get a release. Because when I practiced law or whatever, or when I actively practice, I used to tell people, I hope you think that I ripped you off when it comes to this contract, because that means you got the contract, you put it in a drawer, and you never saw it again.
Yeah,
you feel like you wasted money. But I don't write contracts for that. I write contracts for the day, whether it's a prenup, whether it's a business, whether it's a loan, whatever. I write the contract for the day when your best business partner slept with your wife's, and all of that happened. I write the contract for that day. I write the contract for the day that never comes. And one of the things in this type of situation is that money changes people's perspective.
It does.
And no matter how, now they may still stay true to their behavior. They may say like, well, that's not me, so I am choosing not to do that. But never get it twisted that the perspective changes, because why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If there are opportunities for more resources, like you do the same stuff you do, because when I drink 7-Eleven coffee, it's because I can't find no Cafe Bustelo. It's not because like, oh my God, I want some 7-Eleven. I like 7-Eleven, but I love Cafe Bustelo, and it is that. So when if you're writing and it touches on anybody, make sure you talk to somebody in publishing, and you talk to somebody, it's a lawyer or something like that, and you do your research, and also recognize you may not know enough, but get signatures when you can. It literally,
absolutely.
Worst case scenario, you had awkward conversation with somebody, they signed a sheet of paper, you put it in a drawer, it never comes up again.
Absolutely. That is definitely one of the things I certainly recommend. I'm glad you brought brought it to a legal perspective, because again, if and when you blow up, I have a good friend who says that success sometimes is people's lotteries. Other people, not the person who was successful, but people outside of that person that are successful. And And I've seen it, and I've observed it, and I've watched it sadly happen all over the place. And so, yeah. So again, for me, it was a matter of releasing and letting the people who were closest to me see, and and then they gave me their blessing, and we could move forward. And yeah. And the other thing I would say too, one of the biggest things, regardless of what you do, like if you get published, mm-hmm. Most companies are going to have you do your own marketing. So if you do your own marketing and they forward you money and you never recover what they forwarded you, then you owe them that money.
Yep.
Not to mention all of the money you put into marketing as well. One of the things that for me was unattractive about the whole publishing aspect. Yeah, there's some benefits to it because, there are certain things that I've learned about it through as a self-published author, mm-hmm. that there's certain things that you can't get into if you're not a part of a publishing house,
right?
So that part of it is a challenge. Like a perfect example, there's I think it's Mahogany Books.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking to possibly get my book in there, and looked, and they said that they only do authors from these particular publishing houses. Wow. So automatically, as a self-published person, I'm not there. So there's some challenges in relationship to that kind of stuff. But the thing that I do appreciate is it's mine. And right. Whether I make $1 million from it or I make $100 from it is mine. When you go through a publishing house, typically you're getting, depending on who you are, you're getting 20%, 30%. So on a $15 book, you're getting $3 or $2 or whatever. Like, to me, that's my story. I guess me and my wife have talked about it several times. Like, for me, this is very personal. So I don't want somebody making money off of my story unless I give them permission to make money off of my story. Right. And so.
No, but I really appreciate that, because what you're talking about is that it's not monolithic about how people engage this. For some people, it really is like, I got a story on my soul that has got to get out, and if nobody actually buys it, and I can just get it out of me, I am fine. And there's other people's like, what you want. Actually, you know who did the best job of encapsulating this? Cardi B. So she was at a press conference, and the activists were like, you have a platform now. You need to speak positively and speak life. And she said, well, hold on, let me tell you this. She said, I used to rap about all the positive stuff, but y'all wasn't buying that. When I started talking about pussies and dicks, y'all made me go platinum. Now, and she rattled off the top of her head 8 sisters that did saying the same thing. She said, I'll tell you who they are right now. You should go support them. I support them, but you not. Because they not talking about pussies and dicks.
Yeah.
And that becomes it. Because if you have a story to tell, oh, Jay-Z, I used to rhyme like common sense, but then I run 5 mics. I ain't been rhyming like common sense.
Yeah.
And it is because the system is not designed for good storytelling. The system is designed to make the most money, because nobody invests in a publishing company. Very few people. They used to.
Yes.
But now they're hedge funds and retirement accounts. And who gives a damn about stories? I'm trying to get as much money out so I can make sure that I'm getting paid on my end.
Absolutely.
And it's not, and we think about the people who work there, but it's the people who invest there that drive it. How many people who work at the company make a decision?
Absolutely.
Like, when you think about banks, the risk tolerance profile is set by the investors, not by the bank management. So you can argue whatever. I'm a great business. Okay. The dudes who sign all of our checks.
Yeah. No, that's real, man. That's real. It's important to have like the deeper conversations, because so many times, and this is one of the things that concerns me, is oftentimes we're not a part of those conversations. And so we're thinking at like a really basic level in some ways, and the things are so much deeper and higher than what we're considering and what we're even talking about in many ways.
They often talk about like how people are playing checkers and other people are playing chess. The issue isn't so much checkers and chess at this point.
Yeah,
we're playing jacks. And these people who are running industries are playing Star Trek chess. Because it really is that. Because they're when you look at them play it on TV, it's like, okay, he moved there. Maybe this is some relative thing, but you still don't know. That's the way we look at the financial institutions. That's the way we look at the credit institutions. That's the way we look at the educational institutions, the political institutions. They move somehow. We looking like, oh yeah, I get it now because he moved this way up 3-0. That's it. You don't know nothing.
Yeah, you know, and being real, as somebody who wrote state policy, like that's a whole nother animal. I mean, that's probably a whole nother conversation.
Oh,
I mean, we're talking about the book, but having
you know what, that's another time you coming back on, because I used to do the same thing with the General Assembly in Maryland.
Yeah,
and to watch people, like I remember this one time in particular, because I used to be a budget analyst during my career, and so I would go to these meetings, these because Maryland has an open meeting law, except that kinda. So they would have this open meeting in a room where no one fit, like not even the people who were invited there fit. It was open, you could come. Like the staff people had to take turns in and out of this room. With them, and I hear the plan. Okay, the plan.
Yeah.
And then we go out, and then I hear these people in the hallways talking about, yeah, we're gonna testify, and it's gonna get them to do this, and I'm like, I've already finished writing what they're going to do. But they went through the performance of it all and the pageantry and I'm like, and I'm sitting there like, yo, can we just hurry up? Like I got it written here, like it's already written.
Yep.
But no, an hour and a half later, after the lady had this tearful thing in her eyes and said this, and somebody came and patted her on the shoulder, and then somebody else came up with this. Literally nothing on my fucking sheet of paper changed.
Yeah. No, that's real, man. Like I said, that's a whole nother conversation. And I will definitely, come back if invited. But yeah, man, it is.
So this is on record now. You have an active open invitation.
All right. Well, then
digital link. So you just click on the days you want to come back by, and we'll set that up.
All right, I got you there. Yeah. So I guess going back to the book, because that's where we started, and we went somewhere else. but yeah, so I think the other part to it is one of the things that I have seen, particularly from self-publishing, I would suggest to anyone is to get a good editor, a good editor, because perfect example. I have been in my book for probably a year and a half, and I see things that I think are there, but they ain't really there. And paying a good editor will help you with language. It'll help you with sentence structure. It'll help you with a lot of different things that you may not know. Like an example. So in my book, I talk about this park that was at the end of my block called, I thought it was Karl Marx, because Karl Marx kept popping in my head. That was the name of the park. But I'm thinking, this is Detroit. Why we got a Karl Marx Park? But I never did anything with it other than thought it was Karl Marx Park and wrote it in my book. Well, my editor came in, and I paid them decent money, obviously, and they said no, the park was Oscar B. Marx Park, and then they gave me, this is who Oscar B. Marx was.
Wow.
So I say all that to say, like a great editor or a good editor, because sometimes we think that things are well done, and maybe they're well done to us, but to a larger market, they may not be what they need to be. And I know we started the conversation off with that.
Yeah.
But I think depending on who you're marketing your book to or resource to, I think you have to be very mindful of different people looking at it. And the quick story, even about the title of my book. I was at a conference in California. I spoke at a conference a couple weeks ago. So I see people who look at my book and who are, and being real, white people who are like, oh, I can't buy that. That's
right. I can't.
Like I don't want to do that.
I can't be seen in this book.
Yes.
I don't comfort that I can buy this book.
Yeah, I'm not buying it because I don't want the pressure of the people thinking I'm a racist. So
I never thought about that. Wow.
As a small business owner now, and as somebody who wrote a book, who is 5-star rated on Amazon, and who Kirkus Review said is a powerful and poetic testament to Black life in America in their review of my book, I have to be more thoughtful about how I market. Yes, sir.
The way you did that was so smooth. I'm sorry, because I recognize a game recognized game, and you look like family right now. It was like the way that they just said these, and like you quoted them too. That was fire, yo. That was fire. You just led it into the conversation, like, yeah. That was awesome, dude. I'm sorry. When I see good shit, I gotta call it out, yo. That was
I appreciate that, bro. For me, you know, like as a first time writer, and never like, let me be very clear. I hate writing. I hate writing. Okay. It's not one of my joys, but to get that back from a reviewer, and I submitted it, excuse me, just is it good? Is the book good? Does it suck? Like, you know, how is it? And to get the reviews that I received, one from Online Book Club, who gave it like 3 out of 4 stars, and I mistakenly sent them the wrong copy, so it wasn't even my edited copy, and they were like, it was 3 out of 4 stars, and we would have given it 4 out of 4 stars, but it had these edits, had these edits that were wrong, and that was my fault. Like I own that.
Yeah.
But again, these are all things you have to pay for. So the other piece is when you do it, when you write it, if you're doing self-publishing, then you've got to now pay for things. I think my Kirkus review was, I think, like $400 or $700. My editor was something like $1,000 or $1,400, $1,500, whatever it was. Excuse me. And then this review was the online book review was another, like, I think $200 or something like that. So there's also costs built into this thing too that people have to consider if they want to try to market it to a larger community or to a larger audience base.
So how about this? Because I know this horse always hooks me up with guests that I end up like, damn, we ain't got no more time. Right. So let's do this the next time through. Let's talk about the process of being an author, because like in these last 2 or 3 minutes, like you just dropped like, well, hell, all of a sudden I'm out $1,500, $2,000 before anybody tells me if it's good.
Yes.
And it sounds like it's not just sitting down at a keyboard.
No. I mean, it depends on how you want to market it. For me, my goal was to market it to a larger conversation. But yeah, to your point, before it left my computer, before it went to print, I had put probably $2,000 to $3,000 in it.
And I think that's one of the things that we need to talk about. And also, how do you prepare for that? Not just the 2,000 to 3,000, because you could drop 15,000 to the wrong person and end up with nothing. Yeah. And so just talking about even how as you've navigated this space on your own, like, because like there's one of the things I tell my clients in my business consulting clients is that one of the benefits that I bring to you is that I have failed so much. Like I have started, there was a period of time when I had, like when I worked for the state, I just started, the Radio for Real that me and Crazy Horse started, like back in 2005. Yeah. On the humble, like, oh, to be real cool. And he was like, what? And I was like, I'm doing this. You trying to be down? He was like, hell yeah. Yeah. But we were on the podcasting before that. But again, it was this. What's happening? No, I don't know. I think I got stuck a little bit. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it is the conversation about what, because one of the things I learned very early on was that web designers, like, it took me less time to learn it. I remember I called one of my friends, one of my frat brothers, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I got you $1,500." I was like, "Whose phone number is that?" And this is in the 90s. I'm like, "What are you talking about? You charged me $1,500, nigga? Yeah. I use my man's."
Yeah.
But again, that was a legitimate price for him. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I was like, you just sitting there typing some stuff on the computer, just make a website. I see some of these things online for $59.99. They make a website for $59.99, $1,500.
Yeah, that's a whole nother, because I actually had one of those incidents with a group that I paid. I didn't pay them like $59, but I paid them like $400, and the website was trash. And I just told them, and then I asked them for a refund, and they wouldn't give me a refund because the contract that I signed said that you didn't get a refund. So. Yeah.
So yeah, we need to talk about that, because that is a really big deal, especially as we are moving into these places where we need to tell more of the stories of Black people and in a way that accurately represents what is happening to us, not as one that is commercially acceptable about what's happening to us. Like I want to see a book with, I will never look at it myself. Let me be clear. Be clear. It may already exist, but I would never look at it. But a book that really talks about what actually happened. Actually, we had on our Titillating Tuesday show, we had this week earlier, we had Stacey Dennis, and she talked about how the fetishizing black bodies even led to the mutilation when they decided to kill them. Before you could kill any black man, you gotta take his dick off. You gotta castrate him, because like why? Like how and I think that these stories need to be told. That perspective needs to happen. And to tell you how important it is, how you know it's important, is that they are running full on passing laws. Don't talk about race that makes us feel bad. Literally, don't make us feel bad. So yeah. We about
from a policy perspective, we run out of time. But from a policy perspective, there's a flip to that, and I think people, in my opinion, need to be thoughtful, especially in places like Florida and Texas. The argument, and I believe that the legislation speaks something about, if you feel uncomfortable, call this hotline and complain, and your kids don't have to participate. Well, if I'm a black parent, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it in another way. So
Christopher Columbus, how are you going to talk about Christopher Columbus? He was genocide. We can't talk about him being genocide, so we can't talk about him being a hero.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a way to flip that as well. So
we're going to talk about all this stuff in that time. I'm looking forward to it, brother.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. And wait, let me make sure I got this up on this. Is this the right place where people can catch it?
That is the right place to get it.
All right. Make sure y'all go on here and catch a copy of this book. All right, man. I'm looking forward to talking to you next time.
All right, brother. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Yep. Man, listen. How we always have good shows. Yeah, how we always have good shows. That shit is crazy. Like, just great conversations about real black stuff. You know what I mean? Like you have a man here who is just opening up his life and telling a story that we don't often hear. We hear about the kid who's struggling all the time and hard knock life, blah blah blah. But that's a lot of kids' stories. So I'm about to have a whole nother show by my damn self. Okay, Jesus Christ, this shit is wild. So yeah, but you know what? But I'm not even gonna apologize to y'all no more, because y'all know me, and I hope y'all love me. And if you don't, I mean, that's on y'all. I love me, and I know people who do. Okay, we'll be black next week. Not next week, Lord. We'll be black tomorrow.